Hey there folks, Tugger Blog 208 coming to you live. I'm doing this video to tell you guys why I believe in God. And honestly, this may be a multiple part series on Christianity and religion because I actually have many videos to make on this topic. But without further ado, and again, that's only if my brain doesn't divert, because it always does divert, and that's just reality. But anyway, without further ado, let's dive right in. I want you guys to think about each and individual human personalities, human beings. In the Bible, God said that He created human beings above the animals. And we are clearly above the animals. Like, there should be no question about it. I know evolutionists are trying to say that, oh, we are animals and this and that. There should be no question that we are above the animals. I mean, we're the only so-called animal that builds rocket ships and spaceships and houses and airplanes and etc., etc., etc. Cities, internet, civilization, you name it, we built it. Like, at the end of the day, we're literally flying around in machines called airplanes. And I want you guys to think and realize that humankind has only come to this in the last 100 or something years. In the year 1900, New Year's Day 1900, airplanes did not exist. And that was 1,900 years after Christ. And yet the first airplane ever built, which was literally just a piece of wood flying in the air for about 20 seconds, for a couple of minutes, I apologize, for a couple of minutes, built by the Wright brothers in North Carolina, didn't exist until 1912. 1912, 2024. 112 years. It took 112 years for us to go from a flying piece of wood in the air that made it about 10 minutes to A380s, spaceships, rocket ships, multi-story A380s, etc., etc., 747s, which are now being retired because they are now the old aircraft, and planes flying around everywhere, all continents, all over the world. Internet, only in the last 50, 60 years. Worldwide internet, worldwide social media. But I want you to look at the time scale on this. Since the first airplane, 112 years. Since the first airline, maybe just over 100 years, or about 100 years, or maybe even less than 100 years. Since the first rocket ship, maybe about 75 years. Since the internet, maybe about, 50, 60, 50 years, maybe so. Computers used to be dinosaurs that were this big. Now we carry them around everywhere. They could be small, they're on our smartphones, etc., etc. Social media, internet, I don't even understand how that works. But where I'm getting at is we've had a long time. So basically, 1,912 years since Christ alone, since the year zero, since Christ alone. And humans have been around way longer than that. Thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Okay, folks? So I'm going to tell you what I'm getting at real quick. There is a verse in the Bible, and I want to read this to you guys. Daniel 12:4. But thou, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even unto the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. That's Daniel 12:4. That's a prophecy. Seal up the books until time of the end, until knowledge shall be increased. Well, the proof of that is, sorry, there's a little fly flying around my food. I have food here, and there's a fly flying around. Human beings have had thousands of years. They could have created airplanes. If we made airplanes and rated spaceships and rocket ships and internet, all in the span of 112 years, since 1912, since the first airplane, why didn't they do that thousands of years ago if human beings have been around that long? Human beings, for most part, For most of history, even trains didn't exist way back then. Trains are maybe the 1800s. I don't know about Europe. Maybe the 1600s for Europe. I don't know. Maybe I have to fact check that. But trains are relatively recent too. Trains have only been around for maybe 400 years. And even still, 1,600 years, how did people get around? No GPS, no internet, no airplanes, no trains. Cars are relatively new too. Cars have only been around a couple like 200 years. So what I'm getting at is, when it comes to cars and trains, that's only about 400 years old, maybe total. Cars less than that. Trains were first. And then ships. They've had ships all the way since the ancient times, since the time of Christ, since before the time of Christ. And that's how people used to get around. They used to do maps, Christopher Columbus, etc., etc. But the point is that we've had thousands and thousands of years to do this, yet we didn't. We've had thousands of years to create internet, yet we didn't. Thousands of years to create airplanes and spaceships and whatever, yet we didn't. Yet even then, human beings still built houses, maybe not as modern as today, but still built houses way back in the time of Christ. That's where people lived, whatever. Way back in the time of Christ and even before. At the end of the day, they still had ships, they still had whatever ways of transportation they had. Human beings were always above the animals. We were always above the animals. And at the same time, we didn't have the knowledge for thousands of years that we have today, that we've had in the last 112 years. Or even if you want to include trains and cars, maybe the last 300-400 years. Maybe. It was impossible back then. 1,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago, let's just do 1,000 years ago, maybe 2,000 years ago, the time of Christ, to build trains, to build cars. People rode around on horses back then. So that confirms that verse, that human beings run around to and fro. We're flying all over the planet today. Everywhere we want to go, it's only a plane ticket away. You want to go to China from the United States? It's a plane ticket away. Japan, South Korea, Russia, wherever. You just need to take a plane. And most of the time, just one plane. And we got planes flying all over the planet. So we are in a modern day where knowledge is running to and fro. And that confirms that verse in Daniel. And because of where we are as human beings, and where it compares to where animals are. Besides us, what is the most advanced animal besides the so-called animal of the human being? Nothing else comes close. Nothing else comes far from or remotely close. So we are clearly created above the animals. Very clearly created above the animals. And every human being, folks, is a unique creation. Every human being is created differently, is made differently, is designed differently, physically, personality-wise. There is not a single other person like you or me on this planet. And when you're gone and when I'm gone, we're gone forever. And there will never be another person like you again. And there will never be a person like me again. Every human being, every living human being is a unique creation. Every soul, every human being, every smile, every personality, every design, hair, eyes, expressions, the way we socialize, the way we communicate with others. Some of us are extroverted, some of us are introverted, some of us want to, some of us have desires for things, some of us don't. At the end of the day, every human being is different. And that's just a fact. So therefore, we have the advancement of civilization, people running to and fro, knowledge greatly increased in the last 100 years, just like the Bible said. we have the mere fact that evolutionists will deny to the end that human beings are way the hell above the animals and always have been. And we have the design of human beings and individual personalities in every single human being that will never exist again on this planet once gone. And on top of that, we have animals. We got personalities in animals. We have personalities in dogs and cats. Some cats are sociable, some cats want to hide away. Some dogs are sociable, some dogs want to hide away. Some dogs are very playful, some dogs are not that playful. Some dogs love their masters, love their owners. Some dogs, maybe not so much. Some dogs are vicious, some dogs are nice, Every animal, too, as far as I know, at least every advanced animal, like dogs and cats, they all have personalities, too. Every animal has a personality. Insects have personalities. Insects experience things like fear. You go through a cockroach, you see a cockroach there, or a fly, or whatever, and you chase it, it's going to start running away from you. You walk by a stray cat on the street, it's going to stare at you. It's going to look right at you as you're walking by. That's because these are individual personalities. These are individual lives. Animals cry because they're sad, because they're hurting. When you take another reason, a vegetarian, you take a cow away from the mother, and the baby cow is going to cry. Animals experience emotions. Human beings experience emotions. Human beings experience fear. Animals experience fear. Animals have certain animals, at least in my opinion, all animals, have their own personalities. It doesn't matter if it's a fish in the sea. You're going to try to catch it. It's going to swim away from you. Because it knows something. Because it's alive. It's a conscious life. So we have life and consciousness and personalities in human beings and animals. And we have emotions like sadness and happiness and fear, etc., etc. And we have people now running to and fro the last 112 years. 300 years for trains and cars or whatever. And the fact that human beings have always been above animals. Always, nothing comes close. You can say chimpanzees or dolphins are intelligent creatures. Yeah, they are intelligent creatures. Lobsters are intelligent creatures. I read a study that lobsters can do math, yet we boil them alive like they're nothing. And with all this stuff combined, it is impossible to me, impossible for there not to be a creator, for there not to be a God. So it's very, very, very clear to me and evident to me that God does exist. Now you can ask the rightful question, what kind of God is he? Is he a God who just created us and then just left us alone? Well, there's various views of God, okay? There is the view that God just created us and then just left us alone, and not to mention another thing, we are a perfect distance from the sun, like only a creator could have done that. Earth is a perfect distance from the sun. Any closer, it'd be too hot. Any further, it'd be too cold. We were placed at a perfect distance from the sun, and that is a scientific fact. So anybody who says there's no evidence for God is just hogwashing you. I'm sorry. It's very, very real. It's very obvious. But anyway, I got sidetracked there. I'm sorry. Where I was getting at is there's various views of God. Okay. So there's the deistic view of God. There's a view of God that says, God created everything. God created whatever, and then just left us all alone. And then there's people that say that God is dead. And then there's people that say that, obviously there's the atheistic view, God doesn't exist. But there's people that say that, there's the deistic view, God created everything and left us all alone. There's people that say that God is dead. He created everything and somewhere along the lines he died. That doesn't even make sense. That's just fantasy. There's people that think that aliens created us, but then who created the aliens? That's just more hogwash. Now, There's people who believe in the Christian God, Jesus Christ. That's where my faith is. There's people that believe that, obviously that God created us, intervenes in our lives, set all these rules for us, and we can talk to God about everything, answers our prayers, etc., etc. And he interviews in our lives, and we all have to have a personal relationship with him and all that. And that's my faith. That's my faith. They gave us a book and all that, but I mean, I'm going to talk about that deeper in other videos of what I believe and what I don't, and where I stand by and what I don't, because I have mixed views on all that. But I do believe in a personal God. Now, there's people that claim that they hear God, that God talks to them regularly, etc., etc. And then we can rightfully ask the question, how do you know it's not schizophrenia? For lots of people, God says different things. Sometimes God contradicts himself, and that's just what it is. And if God makes you promises and the promises don't come to pass, how do we know that's just not your head? Or you're just at the end of the day, So at the end of the day, there's various views, and I personally believe that when I got baptized and born again way back in 2015, God revealed to me, you're covered, my precious one. And that's an experience I'll have to the day I die. I do believe I've had other experiences with God, where he has revealed things to me about my life and about, his promises and about my future and all that stuff and his plans for me, etc., etc. And I do believe those, But those are my beliefs. A lot of it's unfalsifiable, can't prove it one way or another. But I do believe it because those are my experiences. I do believe there's been many, many, many times that God has intervened in my life in so many ways. And I have testimonies about that. And I have many testimonies about that. I will get to those in another video. And there's also times where I feel like God has completely let me down. And I know the feeling there too. So, one thing that is evident to me, that is factual to me, is that there is a creator. And that is something I believe is fact. And I guess, where I believe is faith and trust, is that there was a man named Jesus Christ 2,000 years ago who is the Son of this God, who is the Son of God, who died for all my flaws and imperfections and sin, and died for yours too. And that we have to just believe on him to receive that free gift of salvation. And we have to put our trust in him alone and in nothing else. Because I do believe that he did die to redeem us all back to this creator, this God. But all that's for another video. What is factual to me is that there is a creator, and it's obvious. And I'll leave this video at that. Thank you guys for watching. It's Javier Blog 208. I love you guys. Like and subscribe. Please subscribe. Like my videos. Comment. I need more comments, subscriptions, etc., etc. Talk to you later.